Have you ever been playing a tabletop game that so many people talk about, and all you can think to yourself is, this is not that fun? I have. And I've watched tutorials thinking maybe I'm playing the game wrong to find out that I am playing it right, and it's just not very fun. And so when you get to that point, there's only one thing left to do. Make your own game. Make one that you think is fun. And hope that other people think it's fun too. So today will be the first part in doing just that. Talking about Pulsegate, the game that I am making. The first thing that got me interested in tabletop gaming was not the figures. Don't get me wrong, they're cool, they're awesome, and I love making them and I love painting them. But the thing that got me involved was the lore. I loved reading about the different factions and armies. I loved reading the books about D&D and things like that. And the more I read, the more involved I got and the more I wanted to play the game. But it also influenced how I played the game, what I wanted to play as. A great example of this is in Warhammer. The more I learn about the Adeptus Mechanicus, the more I wanted to play their faction. And I think that they're probably the most interesting faction that there is. If you think otherwise, well, that's your opinion, and no, you're wrong. You're very wrong. You can go ahead and try and convince me, but I don't think you will. Anyway, so when I started putting this game together, I wanted to have good lore. I wanted to have good stories to back up the armies. And so I kind of set out to do that. I have written a couple novels, which many of you probably don't know. So I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on storytelling. And so that's what I set out to do. I set out to create a story for Pulsegate. And I'm not going to go into all of that here. I don't have time to go into all of that. But long story short, the story of Pulsegate is this. In the not too distant future, scientists will stumble across a chamber hidden deep below the ground during some sort of mining operation. And inside of this chamber, they will find artifacts. They will find things that they will research and at some point determine is a gateway of some kind. So they'll go through the work, do everything that they need to do to open up this gateway. And when they do, they think it'll be something kind of like Stargate, right? A gateway that they can step through. What they don't realize is that when they open the gate, it signifies that our planet is ready to receive visits from other worlds, much like our own and some very different. And so when they activate it, they will actually create what is known as a Pulsegate. A Pulsegate is a bridge between two worlds that connects our two worlds together for a short time. And when this bridge first opens, we, as the human race, have our first encounter with the first of my races, a robotic race. That is what happens when you let AI take over. Think of it as Skynet that wins, and it goes on to create a world of its own AI and wants to take over everything. And so when they come through the Pulsegate to our world the first time, they do what's natural and they wipe us out. They take over our technology and they leave our world in a ruin apocalyptic state. But we're able to fight them back. The Pulsegates don't stay open for long. And if you're caught in the gate, you will be taken to their world. If they're caught in the gate, they'll stay in ours. And so we're able to fight them off. And then we attempt to close the gate, only to find out that there is no closing it. Once it's opened, it opens, and it opens randomly. And where it opens is anyone's guess in the world. But our world is now ready for this contact. And so that is the pretense of the game, is that you will be fighting characters from these other worlds in a skirmish battle. So let's go over those worlds. One of the things that anyone who knows me knows is that I am not much of a drawer. I wish I was. I love to draw, but the things I draw don't just generally turn out as nice as I can make them. And I wanted to come up with art for each of these races so that I could kind of show you what I see in my mind. And through the beauties of AI, I was actually able to do that by spending hours upon hours upon hours of typing things in and kind of getting what I wanted. So I'll throw those up as we go through these races. To start out with, first is Earth. It is us. But like I said, it's a post-apocalyptic Earth where a lot of our planet has been destroyed. There's radiation. There are a few places left to survive. And so the world has joined or created the UEF, the United Earth Forces. And their job is to keep these Pulsegates under control, while at the same time looking for a planet that we might be able to move to if ours is no longer able to support us. So is Earth good? Is Earth bad? That'll depend on you. That'll depend on the faction of Earth that you choose. And originally I'm going to just have 5 factions from 5 different worlds. Hopefully I can have different factions, a faction on Earth, that uses the technology that we've gained from the other worlds, things like that. So I would love to do that. But for the first army, I guess, or the first skirmish group, it would be Earthlings, people from Earth, from all over, all races, all everything. And those armies will look something like this, I hope. Second up, and something that you have to understand about all of this, is that this Pulsegate, when we open it, we think, oh, it's the first time that it's been opened. But we come to learn a little later that a little over 1,000 years ago, it was opened. During the medieval times, the legends that we get of fairies and fae and things like that come from visits through the Pulsegate. And somehow someone back then learned of a way to close it. That'll be kind of future lore and things like that. But because of that, the races of Gavilan are not too different. They are the fae, they are fairies, they are mermaids, they are things that we have tales of, but they're a little different. In their brief interaction with Earth so many years ago, they learned that magic, which they use, is not all that they needed. And that with the use of technology, they are able to increase their battle prowess. And how that's done is different. It's kind of a steampunk thing in my mind because they have magic as well. But think of a walking tree that's able to feed his fire, burning engine by growing his own limb into the furnace, things like that. And so I love this. I've already put together a couple models from this. You've seen them in some of my other videos, and I'll try and include a little bit of what they look like here. Keep in mind, these are all just barely starting out. But their goal is to get back the people they left behind 1,000 years ago. They are long-lived. Their people are here among us and have been for 1,000 years. Hidden, finding ways to hide. And yeah, there are groups on Earth that know about them and have kept them safe. So like I said, different factions from different places. Moving on from Gavilan is the planet of Aladil. And what Aladil is it's a demon world. And unlike Gavilan, where their people got left on our planet, Aladil has our people. 1,000 years ago, a legion of soldiers marched into the Pulsegate to stop it, and the Pulsegate closed, trapping them on the other side. So for 1,000 years, they have been fighting demons and becoming demons themselves. But they are a close-knit brotherhood. They are doing everything they can. Honor is above all else. They are doing what they can to get home and reclaim, get the planet back that they lost. And when the Pulsegate opens for the first time, and they come through and they see that they're back on Earth, things are not the way they thought they should be. And so they're looking to change that through each Pulsegate that opens. So they'll be different. They are demon, they can fly, they have different attributes, as you can see from some of these pictures. And I think they will be a very cool race, an honor-bound race that's looking to fight to regain what they once lost. Especially because their world is awful.
It couldn't be any worse.
Next up on our tour of planets is the planet Krypsis. Krypsis was once a very advanced civilization that, through the use of soul stones, power their society. And basically what a soul stone is that when people would die, their soul would go to these stones and it would be used as a power supply for the whole city. And they relied on these powers. They were a psychic race, and mental power was something wanted and desired above all else. But sadly, another alien race, one that we don't know much about at this point in time, came to Crypsis and slaughtered their people, wiped them out, and it was only a few people that were left behind when the carnage ended. And these few people, these shamans of that race, did the unthinkable in that they took these soul stones and they opened them to reclaim the souls that had passed on and been put in their power, and they attached them to whatever they could. Sometimes to bodies that hadn't decayed too far, sometimes to machines, sometimes to abominations, depending on the skill of the shaman and depending on what he could do. And now their race lives on with the belief that living half a life is better than not living any life at all. And their goal, as odd as it seems, is to prevent from what happened to their world from happening to others. But they believe that the only way to do that is to make their army larger. Make their army as big as possible so that the next time this happens, they can fight back and they can win. So, Crypsis is going to be fun. The models will be really cool. It's kind of like a living nightmare, but they will be interesting. And then last up on this list of planets is the planet of Shala. And when we first started this little video, we spoke about the robotic race that has been taken over by AI, and that is the planet of Shala. Shala, it seems as though they want to just subjugate everyone. But as AI, many of them have evolved to a point where they think different things. The older that a machine is from Shala, the more free thinking it has become. Some of them think the same as the hive mind and that everything needs to be destroyed. Some of them are more advanced than that and think differently and think that maybe there is a place for all these other races. And so when the human armies first meet them, they are meeting the drones, they are meeting the grunts of this army that come in and wipe them out. But the more and more contact we have with those of Shala, the more we realize that among them, there is some light. There is some hope. The problem is that it is very few and far between. And most of them listen to the hive mind. Like I said, many factions, many things that do differently. And so those are my 5 worlds to start out with anyway. Each of them has a very in-depth story in their background. I'm just giving the most vague of these things. But this is what I wanted to get out there to get started, to hope that some of you out there watch this, to hope that some of you see this and think that could be something cool. Pulsegate itself, when I describe it to friends, it's a combination of chess, Magic the Gathering, I mean, of course, Warhammer elements in there, and D&D. It's a combination of all of these things that I like to play, and that may sound confusing.
But it's not confusing.
That as I release these videos about Pulsegate and how it's played and how it works, you'll get to kind of see how that all comes into play. The matches, I hope, will be about an hour each. I am planning on doing a 4x4 table for the world that you fight in, that you do these skirmish battles in, and I want it to be very three-dimensional with a lot of high up, all over the place, flying units, things like that. And the ideas I have for making that work, I think are pretty interesting, so stick around for that. But anyway, this is just kind of a taste of things to come. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you liked some of the art that I was able to put together for this, and I hope that you'll stick around and join us for this journey as we get to this point where I hope that we can put this together, where we can make Pulsegate. It will be a fully 3D printable game, a lot like one-page rules, but a little different. And so I'll explain that further later on. But please like, subscribe, join us on our journey as we make this a reality, as we bring Pulsegate into the world. And as always, don't spend so much time creating your world that you forget to spend some time in it. Until next time.